A ripple effect starts with a pebble in a pond, causing ripples that multiply and influence much further than the original start point. Today, my guest is Liz Njuguna, who lives in Kenya and is a project leader supported by the work of Just Peoples here in Melbourne, Australia. Just Peoples is a charity partner of my business, Your Time Matters. You may have listened to an earlier podcast where I talked with Joanna de Burka, one of the co-founders and CEO of Just Peoples. Hello, Liz. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. I'm happy to be here this morning.
And what time of day is it? For me, it is 6 p.m.
It's 10 a.m. in the morning.
And how have you spent the morning?
I was getting prepared for this podcast. I haven't done one before, so it was trying to understand how does it work, and yeah, that's how I spend my morning.
We just have a conversation, just like when I've been to the Just Peoples events, it's very relaxed and casual, and it's an opportunity for me to help share your story and the work of Just Peoples. And the reason why it's important is that in August 2021, as you know, YTM launched the YTM Ripple Grant Program, which is a grassroots fund designed to contribute and support both not-for-profit and for-profit organisations who are wanting to create an influence and change where our values align, and we want to tackle inequality and help by working with others. Asking how you can help has always been one of our strong foundations, and we were very keen to help Just Peoples, and in particular the program that you were running in conjunction, because you were our inaugural grant recipient for the YTM Ripple. So firstly, can you share a little bit about your background and your education? And you live in Kenya, and I don't know a lot about Kenya. So just share a bit about that with me.
Thank you very much. Let's begin with Kenya. Kenya is one of the countries in Africa, and we are more on the East African part geographically. And we have a population of about probably 50 million at the moment. And it's a beautiful country, great weather. We don't have the extreme winters, but we do have very hot summers in some of the areas. But it's a beautiful place with about 45 tribes. So our diversity is our strength, I would call it that way, because then the whole mix makes it a beautiful place with its challenges and its strong points. But coming back to Liz, I'm a physiotherapist trained and practicing for the last 20 years here in Kenya, mainly in the private sector. I've worked in private hospitals, but in the last 7 or so years, I've really gone into private practice, which has also enabled me to then go and discover my passion. And I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Yes, so I balance between my kids and my work.
And how old are your children, Liz?
The eldest is 20, Matthew. Mark is 15 in high school. Matthew has just joined university doing computer science. Mark is in her secondary school, high school. He's just joined this year. And Tiffany is the youngest, and she's still in primary, but hopefully next year she joins secondary school.
Right. And did you go to university in Kenya?
No, by the time I was training for physiotherapy, no university was offering the course. So it was basically being run by the only medical college in the country. And each year they would only train 45 of us. So, but now at least it has gone up to the level of degree and master's level in Kenya. But basically, yes. So my level is on the diploma level.
Right. So how did you first get involved with Just Peoples, Liz?
All right. So back in 2016, then it was Spark, which has evolved to YGAP, an organization from Melbourne. So they have just started a project in Kenya where they seek out social entrepreneurs who are making positive change in the communities. So I applied for it, and out of 200 applications, I managed to be selected for the only 9 that made it to the top. So we went in for a whole week of training. And out of that is where I was actually able to understand exactly what I'm doing off my normal practice that's making a difference. And I thought, wow, this is a beautiful thing that is going to happen. And I could do this better because it's something I could do for free. So after the 1 week training, they take us through a whole year of creative support, networking us with potential supporters and funders. And that is how I was connected to Just Peoples. And we've walked the journey till date.
All right. And who were you working with before the program?
So basically, I had my own private practice in my hometown. And I could see clients, but mainly most of them wanted to be seen at the home-based. But while at the center, I would every so often find a mother walking in, a Maasai mother walking in with a child who required therapy, could not afford to pay. And it would always make me think, I'm sending this mother away. Yes, I've given her what information and skills she needs for that day, but she needs this training for a lifetime as long as this kid is alive. And that drew my discomfort in asking myself, what can I do for the many? Because she's representing just a fraction. And that's how, with the YGAP training, and now this scenario, everything made sense for me. So I basically closed my private practice and I now started seeing my clients at home, but it gave me also a lot of time to reach out now to the community. And I targeted the pastoralist communities because they are the ones who had the biggest need. Yeah.
So what sort of therapy do you give your patients? You're a physiotherapist, yes?
Yes, mainly orthopedic. I deal with the very elderly and I also deal with children with disabilities. But basically, here in the country, you'll only find people going for physiotherapy, those who can afford, because even the insurances hardly cover physiotherapy in Kenya. So you'll only find people reaching out when they've been finished by medication and they show up when they have no alternative and you have to really help them out because basically their cash is almost out. And yet they are completely broken down in terms of mental and physical. So it's basically very orthopedic related. So it's fractures, it's arthritis, it's disability. Yeah.
And a child with a disability is hidden away in Kenya. Could you explain a bit about that?
So my work in the community, why I even chose the pastoralist Maasai communities is because their level of education generally is very, very low. So what happens is anything that cannot be explained is then defined as a curse. So a young mother who gives birth to a child and has difficulty at delivery or during pregnancy, when that child is born and they are seen they're not normal, they are branded a curse in the community. So they are never to be seen, never to be heard. And most of the time they're hidden away in their little houses, slowly die off, and they are never considered part of the families. So that breaks my heart because as a mother, every child matters and your heart goes out to your weakest child. So it only would make me imagine, what do these mothers go through when they have to watch their little kid who's made no mistake at all shrink and die away? And then the fear of what if this happens again to my second child? So I reached out to this community that needed so much education, that needed so much interventions. And that's why I work with the Maasai mothers. It's been a journey of awareness, trainings, interventions, be it medical treatments, be it supplying them with high nutrition food, be it supplying them with wheelchairs where necessary. And for some extreme cases, looking for people to sponsor surgery for these children. Yeah.
And I think part of educating fathers and men has been in your program as well. Why is that such an important part?
Now, time has taught us that, yes, you can help a disabled child. Yes, the child can get support from the mother, but this child has a father, this child has siblings, this child has the community within. So if you don't push out the entire education and approach to everyone to understand, this child just needs a little support and empathy from all of us so that they can thrive. If this child goes to school, they need friends, they need to be accepted. If this child never goes to school, they need to be accepted in the homestead. And that's why we have pushed out our outreach. We've cast our nets out and we're saying, let's improve community health overall. And why men? Maasai community is very patriarchal, and everything is only approved once the men say, okay. So we went in with a very vulnerable approach. Like, men, we are here to talk about your health. You also need attention. And it is during those trainings and medical outreach that then some of the discussions drew out on the reproductive health. And we took the opportunity to discuss reproductive health of their wives and what it means for the children. And we actually identified disability. And they easily were able to then follow that whole cycle. And they say, yes, we are happy for our women to be supported. We would want to see our children get the support they need. So that is how, when you buy in the community support, then it's easy now to move. And if a mother gets a baby, you can easily tell her, tell your husband to give you some money to go to further consultation for their child to be helped. Yes, so that's how we are bringing in. Mm-hmm.
And you decided to have the camp because the Maasai women were having to travel big distances, and so you worked with a team to pull together the 3-day camp and to go out to the communities. Who was part of that team? And tell us a little bit about how it ran over those 3 days.
So from the men's medical camp, a lot of kids were identified. And we thought we need to hit it big. We need to cover a bigger area than we usually do, because we want to make sure that the information out there is going out and we can help as many as we can for a start. So we identified 3 locations. And Magadi, Kenya is on the south rift of the country, very dry, very rocky, no roads. And what we did is we collaborated with the local health providers in the area. They're quite far apart, 50 to 70 kilometers apart. And that's just one section. The area has 12. We would probably need 2 weeks to cover that area. So we identified 3 and we reached out. We had a team of 2 medical doctors, 1 very good training in pediatrics. We had a lab technician because we'd have to draw out some blood samples, send it to the center for further checks. We had community mobilizers, and I was there as a physiotherapist, and we had a nurse. So we'd go in one location and the mothers would come to the location with their children. Some would be brought by their grandmothers, and some would be lucky. A few are lucky to have both parents on board. So they would come in either walking or using motorbikes to the location. And when they came in, they would get help in terms of, we'd provide food for them to carry back home. They would be treated and given medication to carry back home. And they would also get awareness and medical education based on the level that they're at. So that is how we ran that very successful. And we were able to cover 55 children below 15 years of age and 3 kids below the age of 20. And now on top of that, now the caregiver who came with that child, either the mother, the grandmother, or the parents. Yeah.
And why is that so important? The ripple that it creates within the community when you have a variety of carers coming along as well?
Because we take that opportunity to send out the message. Most of them, they hear this information for the very first time. And when they get medication, because the government is really struggling to give the community the medications. So when they come and they find everything available, it's such an important moment. And they are happy to get to learn some of the ways they can even prevent some of the conditions that they're going through. Like a simple thing, some of the mothers will complain of a lot of low back pain, even the men. And the doctors would tell them, you're not drinking enough water, so your muscles are going into spasms and causing you a lot of pain. They would get checked for diabetes and hypertension. So it was a moment to actually improve the health education and give them solutions, unlike what they are used to. You show up in a health center, you're told you have this problem, but you don't have medication to go home. So this is a time to show them, yes, health can be done and done efficiently. And that's why we not only care for your child, but we also care about your overall health, because we are counting on you to take care of that child.
And you have been tracking some of the results since the camp. What have you found?
Yes, it's been an amazing discovery, because some of the children came for repeat sessions from our previous camp, which had been done on small scale. And it was amazing. Some of the very standing out scenarios where previously we had 7 children with severe pneumonia. During this camp, only 1 kid had that. The other kids have really thrived in terms of size and weight, and the joys on the mothers, like the medicine you gave me is really helping my child. Now we are not struggling to eat, and you see, you're able to track, oh, this is actually working out. And not just from seeing, but when the mother or granny tells you, look, can you even recognize my child now? And you're talking of probably a month or 2 months of multivitamins and what's it called? Multivitamin and probably treatment of simple infections. So it's been such a breakthrough to the community, and now they take health with the importance that it deserves. Yeah.
And how does that make you feel?
Awesome. Very, very fulfilling. Seeing that we started with 1 child and where we are at, and having now gone beyond the child and now to the community, when we have fathers reaching out and saying, can I have your number? So that if I know of any other child, or when you're coming next, please call me. I don't want to miss this. That's a lot of progress. When you see some fathers accompanying their wives, that is not common in Maasai land. Usually it's women and children on their own, men on their own. But health is now bridging that gap. And we have seen the strides, and we have seen the effort they are making to be able to keep in contact with us, even when they're just saying hello. You know that?
Yeah, that's excellent. That's the relationships are being built, and from that you can open more doors and create more opportunities. So what are your plans for 2022? What would you like to see happen?
So one of our biggest observation is, out of these outreach medical camps, there is a need to continue building capacity in all areas, be it treatment, be it education, be it identifying the opinions that could still be harboring progress. So this year we hope to run medical camp outreaches that will involve medical education, that will involve treatment, that will involve providing some of these children with the nutrition that they need, and a lot of trainings. And we plan to go across the board. We will have men's camp, we'll have women, youth. We also want to target the faith leaders, because during that Sunday meeting, we want them to give the information out there. We also want to target the traditional birth attendants, so that they're able to also know what to look out for when they're helping these mothers give birth. So it's gonna be very broad. We really, really hope that we can get the support, so that with our targeted groups, we can look back by the end of the year and see what have we actually managed. And we want to say, when we say we are coming next month, for sure we're gonna show up and continue with the movement.
And currently, where do your funds come from? Because this wouldn't be a cheap organisation to put together with all the logistics. So where do you get your support?
So, our biggest support is still Just People's. We've been lucky sometimes when we seek out for a project. We've actually had opportunities like when Ripple Effect funded for a major outreach program. So, but so far, Just People are the ones who are connecting us with the people. Locally, we've had support in terms of sometimes the transport, whereby some of our friends will give out a vehicle and say, you can have my vehicle for that program. And we've also had some of the team being happy to just say, we charge very highly, but we are happy just to take just a minimal to run the program. So at least it's something that we've seen people saying, we see what you're doing, we believe in you. But basically, Just People's, Australia and Melbourne has been my hero town.
Well, it's wonderful to work with Joanna and Christy and to see what can be achieved. And I've enjoyed going to the Just People's functions pre-Christmas and meeting the project leaders from all over Africa and various other places around the world. And it's just inspiring to be able to help share part of the story, because people want to help, but sometimes they feel so useless and don't know what to do. So it's wonderful that there are people like you and the other leaders who are on the ground helping. So one of the questions that I would like to ask you is, who's had the most influence on you personally?
That's a very interesting question, but I can only trace it down to my parents. As I grew up, we were brought up with very good values and morals in terms of where you have an advantage, share what you have, be it knowledge, be it skills, be it material support. I saw it in my dad in his own ways. I saw it in my mother in her own ways. And up to date, it's been happening. And I see it with my 9 siblings in their own different ways. They also reach out to try and improve lives. So that is, that for me has been my biggest effect on my life. And I think there's a time I did something, and my dad actually, when she was sharing the story to the rest, they said, "What do you think Liz would do?" And it was so obvious. So it's something that the family has learned to do, and it gives us a bigger satisfaction to be able to see we are privileged in this way. What difference are we making to those who are not in our place?
Yes, parents have a big role as role models, and I'm sure you're an amazing role model for your children as well. Do you see glimmers of their behaviour reflected by their parents and their grandparents?
Yes, a lot. And especially for my 3 children, I have seen it from the very young age. At 5 years old, my firstborn, I took him to a children's home. And by the end of the day, I asked him, "What do you think you want to do for what you saw?" And he said, "I just know I'm going to have a very long night because I need to pray for each and every child in that home." So that blew me away. And I thought, wow, he didn't look at it as a group. He was able to identify the different needs of those children in that home. And in his little way, the only way he could do it was through prayer. Now that they're teenagers, they know mom will come looking out for outfits that we haven't worn and shoes we haven't worn, and she's going to give it away without our permission.
Well, I think that's probably a very good lesson for a lot of children and parents in Australia as well, that there's often a lot of things that could be better used by other people. So, Liz, it's been an absolute joy to get to know you over the last few months and to really be able to have this conversation about and hear a bit more about the camp. And I look forward to sharing this with my network and continuing to help create the ripple effect that you're doing so much and to change lives. So have you got a quote to leave us with?
Have I got a
quote? Do you have a special?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For me, the quote that keeps me going is, "A candle never dims by lighting another candle."
That is something to think about, and I visually can see lots of little candles lit everywhere around. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you at a Just People's event in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kerryn Powell, and being an inaugural grant winner back in August, I'm really, really grateful. And for sure, that made a whole difference in what we're even planning for now. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks too.